but this year he's shown some significant power from that right side, and consistently. So that's why I'm going Grandal. He's one of my favorite catcher plays on the day anyway.
What about slapping a guy like Josh Hader in here for salary relief? He hasn't pitched in 4 days. Well rested.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the only thing that I wonder about like a Josh Hader is you're going to expect him to get up in save situations. So if you believe that Milwaukee is going to run away with this, and that's kind of the narrative that I have in my head, he's not going to get up in a save situation. Do they make him pitch just to, get him out there and get him loose and get some work? And it maybe, but in that scenario, you're not going to get like 2 or 3 inning Josh Hader. It's not an off the wall thing. It's just the narrative and the game script that you're going to put together for that game. And how does it work? I had considered it, but because the game script is the way that it is in my head, and my thought ladder and process is where it is, I'm not going Hader. I don't hate it though.
Word. Right, there's a couple of...
I think it's one of those situations that I wish I had maybe dove a little bit deeper into the bullpen situation in Milwaukee and who they would bring in if Nelson's not, fully stretched out and going to pitch a ton. Who's the guy that's going to come in and eat 2 or 3 innings? Who's the guy that's going to come relieve him if the start is, a disaster? I've got a $5 lineup and I don't care enough to start digging into, bullpens or something like that. But, those other guys certainly are viable if you think this game is going to stay close. And honestly, if you don't buy into, Nelson as a pitcher, I have him in a dynasty league, so I kind of do. There's certainly a scenario where Hader comes in and, can strike out 6 guys, pick up a save, maybe a win, and, scores a ton of points for you. But he tends to be one of those relievers that gets rostered in these situations, I think, a little bit more than some of the other guys in the league because of his multi-inning versatility.
Sure. All right, well, can we look at the 4-game turbo? Would you mind?
Yeah,
sir?
You tell me the game and I'll spit out some things about it.
All right, so for our pitchers today, we have got Colorado at Chicago featuring Marquez and Darvish. We've got Baltimore at Texas featuring Means and Minor. Boston at Kansas City featuring Sale and Junis. And we've got Cincinnati at St. Louis featuring DeScalfini and Hudson.
All right, so first and foremost, I know that there's a lot of weather concerns in that last game. So, from what I've seen, starting pitchers in that game, no go. That's okay, though, because I think all 6 of the other pitchers that you mentioned are viable. Just depends on how crazy you want to get. We've talked at length about Mike Minor and his stuff and being able to go deeper into games. That hasn't happened recently, but I think against Baltimore, it's still a possibility. I think Means at his price gives you a lot of flexibility to go after some other guys. So I don't mind him, especially if you wanted to go like Chris Sale. I think Chris Sale's, one of the top 2 pitchers on the main slate, so certainly he's going to be popular here. But I don't mind going with Marquez or Darvish. Sure, Darvish has had some games where he's blown up, but he's had some games where he's looked really good. And at that price, I mean, he's priced down at like 7,100 for you, Darvish. I think the volatility is built into that price, but he is, in my mind, more of an 8.5 kind of pitcher, even with that volatility. So, it depends. What are you thinking? Who do you like?
Well, I mean, I think Chris Sale is the obvious number 1 guy here. Kansas City doesn't threaten a ton of power, but I think he's going to be very high owned. I mean, he's the obvious pick on the 4-game slate. I might be with you on the Darvish pick. I mean, Colorado is up and down. They are beatable. They're in Chicago, not in Colorado. I kind of like, if the weather isn't going to be too bad, I kind of like the bats in both sides of the Cincy and St. Louis game. Yeah,
one guy that I think is interesting on the On the Rockies is Daniel Murphy. I mean, there's a couple guys that are interesting, but I feel like Daniel Murphy just has this power against the Cubs, and he always has. So I'd be interested in a Daniel Murphy one-off, maybe even if you wanted to use him as the only guy, even against your own starting pitcher. I wouldn't hate it. It's a 4-game slate. I think it's something that you can do. I'm not sure that I condone it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, looking through here, I could get behind Mike Minor too. I mean, I have made some good money off those Baltimore bats though this year. They have come through for me time and time again when I've needed them to.
Yeah, but they tend to come through in situations where you kind of almost expect them to, because they have a bad pitcher that they're facing. Mike Minor's not one of those pitchers. So I think that's where you could get yourself into a little bit of trouble if you're going to attack Mike Minor here with that. But again, if you're going to, the Mancini, VR, Smith, those are the guys that I'm looking at.
Sure.
And I'm not, what's interesting is I'm not as interested in Means. There's not a lot of left-handed bats that he's going to be facing, which is weird for, a Texas lineup that we're used to seeing a lot of lefties. But, with Gallo hurt and then adjusting, there's a lot of righties. There's not as many strikeouts there, but, that price for Means, oh, man, it's hard to ignore.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you're getting into some of these bigger bats, that's what you kind of got to do. If you want to try to pick up some Colorado guys, the guys you want there are expensive.
Yeah, you got to get some of the value. I mean, I think another value guy that you can look at, really boom or bust, is going to be Carlos Gonzalez. I think there's a little bit of a revenge narrative. He's down at like 3,300. So, need a home run from him, but he certainly has the ability to do that, although Marquez is a pretty good pitcher. I don't count on it, but again, you're going to have to call a couple shots here and make some picks to get Sale in your lineup along with a couple other guys.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Minor is 10-8 today, more expensive than Chris Sale. So, trying to put Minor and Sale together, you're going to have to come up with something. Gotcha.
Let's see.
So let's just see. Let me just. I'm going to do a 4 max, $4 4 entry 4 max, 148 person tournament. So I'm going to fill out a few, but let's just put Minor and Sale in there and see what comes up. That leaves us with only 3,500 for the rest here. But like you said, slap Gonzalez in there. He's down at 2,700. He's basically the lowest man on the board today.
Yeah, I mean, so there's something to that,
Oh, for sure, there is. But, I mean, what's he got? 2 home runs on the year? So he certainly hasn't been sexy. But a guy that can pop one off, we'll see. See what happens. But if you put him in there, you got 3,700. I don't know where else we can find some value. Let me flip through a few things. You got Jose Iglesias down at 35. He's the cheapest shortstop. That's not cheap enough for me. If I'm going to put Iglesias in. 3,500 might be the baseline for all of the other lowest guys you want to look at that aren't facing Sale and Minor, of course.
Yeah, and so that's why you're almost forced to go away from those guys. I mean, look, if you're going to go Sale and Minor, you almost need both of them to go 35, 40 points, and then all of these guys that you put into your lineup for somebody to do something. And it's certainly possible, but you're just asking for a lot of things to fall in place.
Sure. Well, Joey Votto, of course, has been terrible. Is only 38. Going up against Hudson. And I'm reading the weather report by Mr. Kevin Roth, and he's thinking it's going to play. There just might be a delay to get it started.
Well, I think one of the things that you can do if you think Sale is going to be the most popular pitcher, I think you can get 2 or 3 guys against Sale, like a Merrifield, a Mondesi, the guys that just need to get on base. Sale's not going to throw a no-hitter. I mean, I suppose he could now that I said that. But if he allows these guys to get on base, they can create points without having somebody to hit them in. Then I would venture to guess, and look, I could be completely off and wrong about this, but I think Sale Darvish might be the most popular pairing.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Because like I said, that price for Darvish is just really nice. So you could, load up the Colorado bats against Darvish. Certainly a guy that could blow up. If you thought it was means, you could get guys like Forsythe and Pence. And, in a 4-gamer like this, I think the strategy is like we did in spring training is fade the chalk and trying to attack the other side of it. So I don't think necessarily you have to attack Sale. I don't think that's part of it, but I think you can certainly attack Darvish, who I expect to be popular at that price.
And just trying to flip through here. You like Mr. Murphy, don't you?
I like Murphy. I like some of the lefties. Murphy, Dahl. Probably don't go Story in that situation, but I might be interested in like Arenado, even though he's a righty. He's always in play, no matter who's throwing the ball to him.
Yeah, no problem. Let me. Sorry for my distractedness here. I'm trying to make this lineup work. So flipping through the guys here. Yeah, Story and Arenado are going to be too expensive. So if you're going to go Murphy, I mean, who do you slide in there with them? McMahon? Do you like
Sure.
McMahon today?
I don't think that's a bad decision here.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's starting to round out here. It's starting to round out. I need some value somewhere. All right.
I significantly overestimated how much alcohol I have in my house.
Nice.
But I think I have enough.
Still looking. This is a tricky one. This is a fun one. Trying to slip these guys in here. How's Junis been pitching? Is he just kind of the same?
Actually, Junis has had a couple really good games recently. I did put him in some of my $4 lineups. I half expect him to get blown up, but he actually, his last 2 or 3 starts have been significantly better. His slider's been zipping a little bit more. And the problems that you see in the Red Sox lineup are not from left-handed hitters. You got Benintendi, you've got Devers. You do have some guys from that left-handed side, but it's not Chavez, Martinez, Betts, a couple of those guys.
Let's see. I think I can make this work. Do you like? Okay, if you have to go bargain shopping, are you going to deal with Jackie Bradley Jr. or Billy Hamilton? If you had no choice, if you had gun to your head, got to pick one of those 2 guys.
Probably Jackie Bradley Jr. I mean,
what about Mr. Bader? What about your man Harrison Bader tonight?
Oh, I love Bader. I just poured myself a glass of some barrel honey flavored rum from Dogfish Head.
Ah, very nice. Let's see here.
The last of it. I bought this when I was in Delaware last time that I was there. And by last time, it means it's probably the last time I go there.
Right.
Not a lot.
All right. You want to hear some garbage? Are you ready for this? All right. I put Sale and Minor in. We got my main man, Jeff Mathis, man in the catching spot at $2,200. We got Daniel Murphy, Ryan McMahon, Chris Bryant, Jose Iglesias, Carlos Gonzalez, Harrison Bader, and Kyle Schwarber.
I don't love nor hate it.
Right? Well, I'm putting 4 entries in, so I'm going to save that and move on. We don't have that much time. So,
I think you can do, if the other thing that you can do in